Hi everyone, I'm Julia Lefebvre, and around here we chat about rewiring your brain to lead with clarity, confidence, and impact. Tired of all the old leadership advice? You're in the right place, so let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Wired to Lead. I am excited to welcome a former Major League Baseball reliever, Evan Marshall. Evan, so excited to have you here. And tell us just a little bit, instead of me reading a bio, I think we'd rather just hear from you. Who is Evan Marshall?
Well, hi, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and look forward to this conversation. Evan Marshall, I grew up in the Bay Area in California, um, and right in the Silicon Valley in tech. I was a baseball player growing up, a lot of interest in Stanford, which is right where I grew up. Kansas State came out and gave me a scholarship offer I couldn't refuse, and so I moved to the Midwest
Okay,
and started playing
what
baseball.
were your honest feelings moving from the Bay Area to Kansas?
Um, at now, remember, this is at the time, not now.
Yes.
At the time, I didn't know if they had paved roads and indoor plumbing. So, pleasantly surprised when I landed to see how great Kansas State University had been developed. So scared, unsure of what to understand, and all I found in the Midwest was hospitality and good people. So maybe not want to leave.
Oh, that's great. So, baseball career flourished at K-State, and where did it take you?
So yeah, Kansas State went well. I was drafted by Arizona in the 2011 draft. Went and did the pro ball journey through the minors back when the minor league baseball wasn't as glamorous as it is today. Had a lot of success early, and that kind of fast tracked me through the system a little bit. And fortunately, I played for an organization that was they met you where you needed to be. And so I kept doing so well, they thought I hadn't, met the right level of competition yet. So I went from rookie ball to high A to double A to the fall league all very quickly, which is great for me. Very happy about that. And so a couple of good years of being, minor league all star and whatnot, and eventually got my crack at the big leagues in 2014. And I had a great rookie year. It was, your original organization in baseball, that's where you came up. That was me and all my buddies in the minors, and we all made it to the big leagues together. So that was a lot of fun. Great wives group, core group of guys. Like we had barbecues, and it was a good time being in the big leagues for more reasons than just the baseball. And Arizona was great. Loved Scottsdale. Had a great time. You play the Giants and the Dodgers and all these teams that I grew up a Giants fan in the Bay, and so you lose your affiliation to your old favorite team pretty quick when they're trying to kick your teeth in a couple times a month. And so yeah, now it's a business, and it's not fun anymore. You're playing a game, but the implications of the game are what make it less fun. But I had,
Okay,
yeah,
but real quick question. What is it like to walk into your childhood team's stadium for the first time and take the mound?
it was absolutely bizarre because you're like, I don't belong here. I am a fraud. Look at all these other big leaguers that are so much better than me. Uh, but then you have the ball in your hand, and if you're a pitcher, nothing happens until you say it's going to happen because you have the ball. Everyone's waiting on you. And whether you're playing in the Giant Stadium or some dirt track, and on a back field somewhere, you have the ball. It all starts with you. You can always find that center. You can find that zero, knowing that I've done this so many times. It's the same thing. You just have to find that mental space where you have some clarity and the moment doesn't overwhelm you.
I bet.
It was a blast to go into San Fran and to see the stadium from the interior and not behind the fences.
I bet.
Um, and so fulfilled those childhood dreams really quick. But just as happy as you are to be there, you realize that's Buster Posey standing over there and he's trying to do damage against you. And now it's about your paychecks and the implication, now performance equals pay. And so now it's changes the love for the game just a little bit. But yeah, I had three years in Arizona, suffered a tremendous head injury while I was there. Which took me in my career to a new chapter, a new place. From Arizona, after making it through all that and making it back to the big leagues, which was a challenge, and I'm still not really sure how I persevered through that. A lot of luck, but a lot of good people around me as well. I got traded to Seattle, and I had a year there and a year in Cleveland, and again, met great people, and then I signed in Chicago on the South Side, and Chicago's a great city. I had really good years there, and so if you ask any big leaguer, wherever you're at is fun if you're playing well. And so not only was I playing well, but I was in a great city, and we lived in a good spot, and it was good for kids. We were safe where we were living, and so, yeah, those years in Chicago were a lot of fun. Playoffs, we won a division there. But as it happens in sports, you tear a ligament, you blow a tendon, and now you're on the side watching. And that's what happened to me at the end of 2021. And that started the rehab journey again for me. And so at Tommy John and a few setbacks later, I pitched all the way until after the end of 2023. Felt that pop in the elbow one too many times. It just said that's felt big enough that it's going to be a length of time. And I had some doctors confirm that with me, and I decided that was ultimately the best time for me to step away.
Wow.
Yep.
So many of us, we watch professional athletes and we see their success, and yet you just breezed through about three major, and one was life-threatening injuries, and in like 2 minutes. And so I just want to rewind a little bit and talk a little bit about tell us a little bit more about that head injury that you had while you were in Arizona.
Yeah, certainly not the defining moment in my career, but a pretty impactful one. August 4th, 2015, I was pitching in AAA in El Paso. I had just gotten sent down for not having a very good start to the year. And then I got down to AAA, and I was fighting with, I don't belong here, and what are they doing to me, and resenting where I'm at. And then I just wasn't pitching well. They want to call me back up, but I was getting my teeth kicked in. So I had to figure out some things first, which was more of a mental fight, embracing the challenge, why I'm here and stuff. I finally figured it out, and I was pitching scoreless over and over and over. And August 4th, 2015, I was very close to going back to the big leagues. And I took a line drive, 107-mile-an-hour line drive, right back to the head off the bat. That's so fast, you don't have time to move. I tried to get out of the way. That it's going to hit you or it's not. And unfortunately for me, it tagged me pretty good and ricocheted to first. And my ears were, that scary part was my ears were ringing so loud. I couldn't hear when the trainers, players, and everyone came running out to me. I was terrified. I couldn't hear what they were saying. And don't know how, but calmed down a little. And they helped me get off the field. By the time I made it to the dugout, I am dry heaving. So first concussion symptom is setting in. And the lights are starting to dim a little, but I'm still there. I'm with it. Halfway to the hospital in the ambulance is where it goes dark. I've got a window in there of probably 48 hours that there's a flicker here or there, but I don't remember. So I get hit in the head. I have multiple skull fractures and a very large subdural hematoma. and a closed skull event. So I'm bleeding internally to a finite amount of space. Your head is only so big, and if you add fluid in there, pressure builds. And when the pressure hits a certain number, Brett, you're killing brain cells at that point. And so the procedure to alleviate that is they drill holes through your skull. They create a vent, and a drain tube, and so I was open, big incision, 3 holes drilled. They fixed the bleed, and now the fears of coma. With head injuries, comas are so common. That's what they were nervous about in my case. And to the Diamondbacks' credit, the second it happened, because everyone knew it was bad. They put my wife and puppy on a private jet and got them there as fast as they could. Because honestly, they thought she was coming there to say goodbye or something close to it.
Yeah.
So I'm out of surgery. I'm in recovery, but they can't get me to wake up. There's nothing working, and they need me awake so that they can take like a breathing tube or something out.
Yeah.
And so then they bring in my manager, Phil Nevin, great guy, family. And I'm not responsive. And so Phil had picked up Allie, and they brought Allie in, and same thing, a little bit eye flickers and stuff, but nothing movement, nothing impactful there. The surgeon decided, hey, bring in his dog. And so my dog Butters, my wife carried him into recovery, and they set him on my chest. And after a little bit of time, Butters started to realize who I was and starts to smell me and get excited. And almost like a movie script, he kind of just raises up and hits me. And that's kind of when my eyes opened and I started coming to. And I remember just a little flicker of my dog and my wife, bright lights. And then it goes dark again. So then I'm for probably 48 hours.
Literally said, hey, get
Yeah.
up. He was probably thinking, I want to play.
Nurses are crying, and so is my wife, and just the wildest little turn of events. But I'm alive, and I'm coherent, and then started the hard work. I was so concussed at that point that I couldn't walk. I had no balance. I was slurring my words. My smile is crooked. All of these things are just concussion symptom after symptom after symptom. Nothing no one's ever seen before. So there's treatment, there's plans, but I was a stubborn, strong-headed athlete, and I wanted to get out of that bed and just put a uniform on, and I'm good to go. I don't have any deficits or anything.
And so it would have been hard to fully recognize that you did. I mean, you've been out and then kind of there, and you wake up and it's like, okay, let's go.
Exactly. Right back into the routine, pregame meal, the whole thing. I was ready to go back. Me and my mouth, I'm telling these doctors what needs to happen. And, okay, fine, Evan, try. And it's like, that first step out of bed is kind of a doozy when you're heavily concussed. And I was like, tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. And so then, you have to be exposed to your deficits to understand that you have them. And every time I thought I'd get to somewhere where I'm making progress, let's peel it back another layer and we'll show you why you're not there yet. And it started with walking. I had to find balance just to be able to stand on one foot, which took a long time. And then, the things that you take for granted, you can stand on one foot while having a conversation, while thinking about what you want to do for dinner later or something. And that's what they had to do for me. They had to draw my attention in multiple directions so that I was constantly challenging how much brain power I had. And I just remember being able to do the physical things. I could do a push-up. I could walk on a line. I was kind of back. But as soon as they said, okay, and say the alphabet to me, while standing on one foot, I couldn't get the words out. I didn't have the brain power to do anything but balance, anything but those physical things.
Isn't that amazing? Because really what that does is it draws attention to how much our brains are working and we don't even realize
Mhm.
until there's
Yeah,
an injury and you have to recognize.
I was absolutely ignorant to that fact. Like I just took it all for granted. And once I could physically do the things, once I could move, once I could jog, once I could do all those things, then it was like, okay, well, we're going to stand on one leg. We're going to toss these bean bags to you. And then you're going to say the alphabet. And every time I say stop, you're going to say an animal that starts with that letter. And I just couldn't get the words out, right? Every time I had to take a step forward, right? Like I could balance, check that box. Then it was balance and talk. Couldn't do it, finally could do it. Then it was balance and talk and catch things. Couldn't do it, finally could do it. Like every time I thought I was there, they just pushed it a little further. And honestly, I'm in their debt forever because of that. They held me to a higher standard as a pro athlete at my neurological rehab center. And again, the brain games and all the things they showed me, it helped me buy in. Like I was ready to go until they showed me that I actually had these problems. And yeah, then it was
Isn't that
just,
interesting?
yeah,
How it's almost like you have to be willing to look in the mirror and see what's broken or not working in order to recover or heal. And how many times do so many of us refuse to do that?
yeah.
And so we never get to heal.
I was a long ways away from here. That's definitely a fact. I mean, it just took time and exposure because once I made it through the neuro rehabs, um, you haven't done anything to compete yet, right? Like you haven't actually gone out there and had to compete and had to actually show the world that you can still do the things you used to do. And just as time progressed, and we're talking about months of this now, not just days, weeks. I just at some point was better. Like I was just there. But the one thing I hadn't done yet was pitching a game, right? You have to get cleared, do that. And even if they had said, okay, go do it, I don't know if I could have. I was so I don't know. I had PTSD about balls being hit back at me. I mean, there was no way around that. I was still having nightmares and flashbacks about this near-death experience. Um,
Well, yeah,
and
that makes
so,
sense and really draws attention to the reality that our brains impact our physical bodies. They impact our cognitive thinking, our reasoning, our ability to think. But there's another part that there's this deeper subconscious that holds on to it. It's that the amygdala and that limbic system that is its primary job is to keep you safe. And when you experience something threatening to your life, it's going to dig those memories deep into your memory and ensure that you never put yourself in that spot again.
yeah, I did a poor job of listening uh, to that one because, a few months later, I'm right back in the same spot. So I passed all the tests, but the one thing I needed to do was have balls hit back at me. I was nervous about that, so it just took time of standing against the fence. We're going to hit these balls at you nice and easy, sensitize you to it, and to their credit, I mean, it did. It took time, but it did. But then you get into the game. I was cleared. I went and pitched in my first game. It was a spring training game, and it was a quick inning with a strikeout. And once you get out there, it's like riding a bike. None of the other stuff matters because there is no way to compete at the major league level and have your attention be anywhere other than there. It is so difficult to be good at that level that you just can't be in there with half your brain doing something else. So it was like riding a bike. Muscle memory took over. Huge success. And I just remember just the emotion after of like getting back to that point. Like I just opened up and cried my eyes out for a long time. And as big of an accomplishment as that was, again, it was still just the beginning. Like I hadn't made it yet. I had thrown in one spring training game. So now you're, as soon as that happens, you're right back to the grind. You're right back to being a reliever. You're going up and down. You're looking at reports. You're studying. You're doing all those things. And I wasn't ready for that. Like I needed baby steps, and I kind of just jumped. I was as big of a reason for this as anybody. I was pushing, and I jumped in, and I had to start from AAA, trying to make my way back, and it worked. I pitched really well. I got called back to the big leagues. I had some success up there, and then I get sent back down. And then you're back down, wondering what wasn't good enough, what could I have done better, and all these things. And you don't process that very well because you are compromised neurologically. And so while I needed stability and something to lean on, what I got out of baseball was a roller coaster. And so by the end of that year, I was so sick of baseball and just the grind of it, and I just wanted nothing to do with it. And even if I could go out there and be successful, I still wasn't very happy trying. And so I went home at the end of 2015, the end of 2016. Not knowing my future, I knew I still wanted to pitch, but I couldn't survive any more seasons like that because no one's going to hire me. And so I caught on. I got traded to Seattle the next year. That was kind of my turn the page, fresh start moment. And it worked. I wasn't thinking about me as a Diamondback and my injuries and stuff. I was just thinking about my new time as a Turner. And I went back to being successful and having a good time at baseball. And baseball happens. I tear my hamstring, right? So go from one injury to another, different type of rehab, much better to heal your leg than your brain. But again, it gave me distance from playing. So it was more time just getting to get comfortable with who I was at the time and my new reality about life. Healed up my leg, and I'm back. I was in India the year after that, and that was very good for my career because there were plenty of people on that Indians team that were so much better than me, but they were just good people. They embraced me and helped me get better as a pitcher, and they showed me a lot of things, and I kind of applied that to the rest of my career. And the next year I was a White Sox, and I went on this long scoreless run and had a great 2019. And COVID's the next year, and it's like I'm finally good at baseball again and ready to, take the next steps. And then baseball gets shut down. And so yeah, then COVID came and went, and we're pitching in masks and all the fun stuff. And yeah, I had a great 2020. That was the fun thing about baseball then was we got credit for a full season, even though we only played 2 months. And I could fool people for 2 months. But that's kind of what it always felt like for me. Like I don't belong here. These guys are so much better than me, and then just keep fooling them. And so I kept fooling them for a long time. And later in my career, especially in Chicago, I finally was like, all right, I guess I belong here. And right around that time, when I sort of embraced this is actually who you are, I was named a team captain, and I had a little bit more of a voice in the clubhouse, and especially down in the bullpen. And yeah, that was just sort of a change. I was always driven. I was always pushed. I mean, Major League Baseball, I'm number 20,610. There's only 23,000 and change that I've ever played. So it ends up being like 1% of 1% of 1% who ever try make it there. And so you kind of lean back into maybe I do belong here and all the stuff, the self doubt, that athletes go through. Yeah, so I get credit for that short year. I come back in 21, still pitching well, doing good with the spotlight, having fun, and then my elbow goes bad. Basically, little by little by little, every pitcher whittles away at their natural equipment, and so then I missed all of 22 with Tommy John, and I loved my time in Chicago, but at the end, we kind of were faced with they could have re-signed me and maybe brought me back to help take care of me a little better. Maybe I expected that because I had good years for them. But they didn't, and I was left with the choice of rehabbing as a minor leaguer or going home at my house and rehabbing, which is what I chose to do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I spent all of 22 being a stay-at-home dad and going to these therapies and rehabs and stuff, and that was a great year. I had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old at the time, so very entertaining and busy for us on top of the rehab. And so, yeah, then I rehabbed, made it back, and signed with the Angels in 23. But like so many people before me, you have surgery to fix a problem. But there was another problem hiding in there that was caused by the original problem. So you fix one, but the leftovers, let's say. So I ended up tearing again, and then again in another place. And so most of 23 was spent just rehabbing and trying to come back. And by the end of the year, I was there. And so now I'm going into the off season and I'm having conversations with other professional teams about next year. And they're good conversations. I have contracts if I want. And I feel I'm working out to go showcase and throw, and I feel pop again. Mm-hmm. That was enough that I should be concerned. And with, a doctor's help, I was able to confirm that I had, a surgery and 6-month rehab waiting in front of me for a flexor tendon. And I just said, parts of 9 years, I've got 2 boys at home. Now's probably a good time, because even if I rehab and fix it, that's all for just the chance to get back up there. And like, you'll do anything to get back up there, but at some point you're at the end of your rope. Yeah. And so I filed the paperwork and decided that was that. And now what, right? It's almost a sense of not panic, but what do I do now? And because I only ever had one job and didn't know anything about the real world other than my little place in it. And I got recruited to come to IMA by some friends here, and I'm very fortunate that they did. It's a great company. I have found a home here for sure. And it provides me the opportunity to sleep in my own bed and be a dad and husband and put roots down and have a network here. I would have loved to have gone back into baseball. I say that now. At the time, I wanted nothing to do with it. I was so sick of baseball. I wouldn't watch it on TV. I didn't want to do any of those things. And all it takes is like a good playoffs, and I watch some games were tremendous, and I'm like, baseball's cool. And so now and now I'm a pitching coach for high school, and I work full time, and I give lessons. I'm a dad and a husband. And I am definitely on to that next chapter.
Absolutely. So, man, there are so many lessons that I'm sure you walked away from your professional baseball career with. And I'm just curious, what sticks out? I mean, again, you had a lot of ups and downs, and it wasn't just one life-threatening injury. There were, injury after injury after injury and emotional struggles and all of that. What do you, even to the point where it sounds like you were really burned out of all that baseball entailed. And yet, looking back, yeah, what did you learn, especially about leading?
You know, early on, well, let's say when I'm a rookie, I say early on, I was 24. You know, the 30-year-olds on the team have the voice. They're the ones that are saying, get on my back, let me be your leader because of all my experience. And that is 100% true. You don't know what you don't know, and they've been there and done that. And so keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open, was my policy for a long time. Because if I don't do that, I talk way too much and I put myself in positions that I don't need to be in. So be quiet, be an observer, go out and do your job. And yeah, after a few years, especially once I got back to Chicago, we were a 100-loss team the first year I was there. So there weren't a whole lot of voices that were preaching like the good stuff. Everyone was so, woe is me, we're the worst team in baseball. But I was just so happy to be established back in the big leagues and like, guys, here's how we're going to move forward. And so when we had a new manager come in Chicago, and I was selected as a captain. It was cool. He deputized us to sort of police the team, and he wanted to just run the X's and O's and let everything else be handled by us. And so that was cool for me to be recognized like that by a coach, somebody that has been in the game and seen so much more than I have. Recognize that of the 25 guys here, I should be telling people what to do. And so that was cool. I mean, it wasn't like I was telling, the first baseman and star players what to do, but I had a voice in the bullpen.
What was the voice? How did that play out? Like, was it game strategy or was it life strategy?
Baseball's baseball. So there's not a whole lot of game strategies or wrinkles to that hasn't already been tried, or people understand that's an option. You can do that. It was on the personal front, being a leader as far as, how do I designate this on my insurance forms to help, make sure my wife is a beneficiary? Like, it's those experiences that aren't necessarily about being on the field, but they are about how do you, get your rent paid when you get sent down to AAA and you're still paying for your place in Chicago or in the big leagues. All of those things that I had gone through already allowed me to be a position of authority when it came to being a bull. I wasn't the best player we had, but people trusted me because I usually just they recognized that I had been through so much already that I probably had something
to say. Well, and I imagine coming in to a struggling team who is experiencing major adversity, you knew a little bit about that. And I imagine your perspective became really valuable because you could see it more for the gift that it was, and maybe a bigger picture of what the team was going through.
A little bit, just as I went through my own personal journey and stuff, I kind of had to pitch this mindset that, look, all these things that are happening right now are things that are going to make us better for next season, and even if you want to go in the short term, make us better for the next series. And that was one thing I felt like I did well, was I continually helped push forward with guys. They didn't get stuck worried about this or that because they had the answers to a lot of stuff. And I did like that. I liked having that position of authority, even though, again, they were people way better than me, way more qualified. But experiences wise, I was as qualified as anybody. So having a little bit of authority there, the ability to impact my teammates and the ones around me, that was nice. And it teaches you a lot about who you are. Like, I was always a leader on my teams, but when you go to pro ball, you're on a team full of, like, every single kid on that team was the best player on their team their whole life. Right. So now you've got 26 of those on the same team playing against 26 others that are the exact same way. Like, in Major League Baseball, everybody is the best you've ever seen. I mean, they're just so good in ways that a lot of people can't even comprehend. Because, like, you run into the people that, oh, I wanted to play in college and I just said no, but I was good enough. It's like you don't know until you've seen it at that level.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball players are so good. And I felt like a fraud half the time because that's how I just held them up higher than me.
So much.
But it just takes confidence and having some success and then duplicating the success to then understand, okay, maybe I do belong.
Maybe I do. And that makes sense because our brains pay more attention to our experiences. And so even before you knew, you referred to it earlier, I think, that other people believed in you. And so there really is a reality to being able to borrow courage or borrow confidence from people. And then that helps us to live into the experiences that prove it even more.
Yeah, I remember people saying like, "You fought for your life. Like, you can throw a strike right here." Like, yeah, those aren't really the same. But you're right. I've been through things, and
Right.
this isn't nearly as big of a moment as I'm probably making it out to be in
Yeah. I mean, you stood on one foot and said the alphabet,
my
which
head.
sounds ridiculous now, but in the moment, that was the hardest thing you had ever done.
I jokingly, in my circle, say that I got smarter getting hit in the head with a baseball. The truth is I didn't, but the entire rehab for it is brain games and puzzles. And it was like I was studying for the SATs or something. Like it was, I came away from it with a great vocabulary and the ability to process math really fast in my head. It's not all bad.
Not all bad.
I remember specifically knowing like I'm probably pretty close to being back when the therapist in charge of testing me in the brain games and the mental side took it to another level and hey, I'm going to read you 9 numbers and I need you to say them back to me smallest to largest, odds only, right, taking it
Oh,
levels above.
yeah.
And there was a moment where it clicked for me where I like said it back to her quickly and surprised her like, oh wow, like the only person who's ever answered that question was a Navy SEAL I was rehabbing. As soon as she said Navy SEAL, because obviously we as Americans should hold them as high as possible as far as their physical abilities and mental abilities. I did something that one of those guys did. So then it was kind of like, man, all right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, now I can't, my brain capacity isn't the problem anymore. It's ultimately coming back to my physical abilities. But yeah, it was a ride for sure.
I imagine. And so it seems like, you did overcome the physical obstacles, and unfortunately, as we age, they just kind of continue to come back to us somehow. But you did overcome some amazing obstacles, and then you overcame the mental obstacles. And I'm just curious about the emotional obstacles. Uh, what part of this experience led you to the most grief, or what emotions did you have to face? Or I'm curious, maybe I should ask it this way. The doctors forced you to look and to experience your physical um, struggles, your deficits. And I'm curious, what were your emotional deficits that you had to face and maybe still are facing as you continue to grow and heal?
You know, Emotionally, I was angry because I just had like a scoreless month. I was ready to go back to the big leagues. I had figured it out.
Feels really
Uh,
unfair.
yeah, so at the time, right away, didn't realize, like I felt like I got robbed of that opportunity. But the fear of the unknown was the one thing sitting out there. Did my career just end? Can I even do it anymore? Am I going to suffer the same concussion symptoms? Am I going to get lightheaded? All the unknown. You can come up with a hypothetical to really hit you in that subconscious fear pretty quickly, and that helped me a little. That I was so nervous that was true, that I was pushing myself pretty hard to try to, you know, if I work harder in my rehabs, it won't be true. Um, and yeah, it took the confusion about why I couldn't do things. That was scary. Why can't I stand on one foot? I could do that forever, right? Why can't I say the alphabet, while standing on one foot? It was just, I had to be exposed to my deficits to prove to myself that I wasn't there yet. Because I was stubborn. I was a professional athlete. I was on top of the world. And I was telling doctors that I was good. And they would say, oh, yeah, try this. And it's like, no, I spoke way too soon.
I imagine that even in those moments, it's like, this feels scary because I can't see why my legs are physically fine,
Yeah.
yet they're not working. And am
Yeah.
I going to ever get that back, even in the moments of rehab?
Yeah. I mean, I got crushed by a ball. It crushed me emotionally. And I was very lucky, to have just survived. And then to have survived without lasting damage, a deficit that stuck around, a disability.
Yeah.
I made it back, 6 months later, fully functioning, with a big scar mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And as hard as that was, you don't change. Would I rather not have been a major league baseball player and not have to deal with that? The smart money would say yes. Get your finance degree or something and go into the real world. Um, but I was also, the dream I had from the time I could watch a baseball game was to be in the uniform doing it on TV. And yeah, I still would have tried. I still would have done it. It gave me and my wife a great head start in life for that next chapter. And it's cool that my kids remember. They all have their little jerseys and their stuff from their time in Chicago.
I bet.
Yeah, very happy days mixed in. Even when it was great in Chicago, I was still the grind of being a pitcher in baseball is just so tough because as a reliever, if you give up 3 runs tonight, you have to flush it because you might have to face the same people the next day. And if you think about what they did to you yesterday, it's probably going to happen again. So it's the Ted Lasso, be a goldfish. That's kind of being a reliever. Remember the good things, the things that help, and flush out the rest.
Yeah.
And replace it with things that matter.
Matter. Well, and so we're getting close to the end of our time, but when you said, and it's fun, it prepared me for what's coming. And you mentioned that one of your kiddos has had some medical issues, and I imagine it even prepared you in some ways to be able to face those challenges.
Yeah. My son Ryan had a bout with epilepsy when he was less than a year old, and I have no problem admitting that broke me. That was the hardest thing I've ever been through for me and my wife. And yes, going through hard challenges in your life hardens you and prepares you for things. But the challenges I had gone through were my own. I was the one doing it. Versus my wife was having to comprehend watching me do it and what happened to me. And so just as hard as that was on me, it was probably harder on her. And then I finally got to experience that watching our son, have seizures. Watching it happen to somebody else is so much worse than it happening to you. So yes, it helped me prepare just for the being tough enough to deal with the things that come next.
Yeah.
But I was dealing with them with tears in my eyes. Just it was terrible. Um, Now there's parts of me, you know, I'm hardened. Like I stand on a mound and people yell stuff about my family and how bad I look in my outfit, my uniform, and it just goes in one ear and out the other. I'm still that way. Like people can say stuff to me, and it's just like great. I'm very confident with who I am. Man, when stuff happens with your kids, you're just like so emotionally ready to fight everybody, and
it changes things, doesn't
it
it?
changes things so much.
Yeah.
But so like I said, it was so much harder with that happening to someone else and not me.
Yeah.
And I appreciated my wife's perspective on my injury now, having experienced that happening to somebody else.
Yeah, she's a superstar.
It
She's
hardened me
life.
to the fact that there's a long road ahead, and here let's just make sure we get the right steps and the right plan in place, and that took a long time, but we made it through. And again, another life experience that
Yeah.
teaches you a lot, hardens you a lot. Um,
And now you have exponential joy when you see him
yeah,
running around and
yeah,
playing baseball like his daddy. And
exactly. I've had so many proud dad moments since then with my boys, and Ryan's doing great. You know, he certainly playing catch up because he was delayed across the board. But now he walks in the house and gives me knuckles. What's up, bro? And I'm like, all right.
here we go.
Yeah. So being a dad has been great. But you can't make it to the big leagues without working really hard and having a regiment, being dedicated. And those are the life lessons and the stuff that'll make me good at being a dad and being a good husband and working in the real world. Those dedications to your task that, instead of being in the gym, I'm on the phone. It's just different, but it's still the same concepts.
Yeah. Well, Evan, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. I think it's really important that our listeners hear real life stories of a lot of ups and downs, and even just hearing about a professional athlete who, now today is very sure of himself, but for a lot of years, there was just a lot of imposter syndrome, and that's just normal and part of the process of moving up into a leadership space. So thank you for being here.
I really appreciate you inviting me. It's been great getting to chat with you.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. We will see you next time.